in our community. Our black humanity must be recognized.
That is powerful right there. Now, that's crazy. And you brought up a great point that I wanted to ask you about. You seem to concentrate on local politics more than national politics, and 90% of people, I can firmly say, concentrate on national politics rather than local politics. You don't hear people talk about vote for your city councilman, your representative, or your judicial judges. You only hear people talk about Biden, and that's pretty much it. Maybe your senator. You know what I'm saying? So how do you feel about local politics? Do you feel, and also with this going in, how do you know when people are taking advantage of the system and just trying to be elected official? I know you said earlier, if you're not from the area, if you're not this, but I know you like to sponsor. If you guys don't know, he sponsors a lot of different politicians. How do you know who to sponsor? How do you know if they're actually with your mindset? They're not just talking to you, and then 2 years later when they're in the seat, they're just going to do something completely opposite, like you see a lot of the times. Probably Senator James Sanders was probably like that. So how do you know who's fishy? How do you know who's real within the system?
I feel like with me, it's just, I want you to be honest, you know, and I want you to understand the pressure you are going to have running for office. And, you know, for me, I look at things from a different type of way. Like, I look at things and I'm just asking myself, okay, so you're running for office, right? Have you ever been an organizer? Have you ever been an activist? Have you ever been working in government or politics? Have you ever phone banked? Have you ever worked on a campaign? Have you ever testified in a courtroom? Have you ever did caucus weekend? Have you ever, you know, been out on the streets fighting for the justice that our people deserve? And, you know, when I hear things like, oh, I'm only running because, you know, it sounds good, or I'm only running because, like, my community feels that I should run, but and everything. And, you know, I'm only running because I'm not from Southside Jamaica, Queens. I'm from Oklahoma, but I feel that I can get recognized as Southside Jamaica, Queens. And it's just like, whoa. Like,
you're doing this for the wrong reasons, but
you're doing it, really for the wrong reasons.
You did not hit one point. Like, you're trying to help a community, like you're actually trying to help a certain social justice movement.
And, you know, for me, I just always ask them this one question. How do you feel about the foster care system? Do you know that the foster care system is so, what's the word? Humane? Is that the word I want to say? Inhumane. Yes. Do you know that the foster care system is so inhumane? And they're like, well, I don't really know much about the foster care system. I didn't have nobody in my family that was a foster child, so educate me on what's going on in the foster care system. So I said, you know, I would say, like, is housing not a human right? Housing is a human right. Okay, well, if housing is a human right, why is there 75 to 86% of houseless and homeless and youth who are in shelters? This is our youth.
That's crazy. And
they are not even touching the age of 23 to 25 years old. Starting from the youngest of houseless and homeless is at the age of 6.
That's crazy.
Now, you do your research, and, you know, there's studies that show that a lot of foster care youth are leaving foster care with depression, leaving foster care with suicide. Some foster care youth are becoming sex workers because they've been trafficked for so long. Some foster care youth feel like they have to isolate themselves and be alone. And, you know, this was one of my biggest fears that I always felt like I was going to have, and I did have it. And I'm glad I recognized that at a young age. It was times that I would do stuff and I feel like it could be looked at to the public eye as validation. Like, and I never understood why. You know, like, I would always second guess myself. I would always, like, do things that I did from my heart. But to the public eye, it gets looked at as me looking for validation from other people, especially social media. You know, that plays a big part, especially when you're doing stuff of helping the people and you're posting on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. People love to say that he's a performer.
The performative.
Performer is the performative. That's probably, you get that a lot, right?
I get it a lot, but my question is, if I'm a performative activist, do you know what it is to be in a room sitting up until 12 hours at night, like a good 12 hours, writing speeches, holding people accountable, making phone calls, going outside organizing, not just organizing protests, but organizing for registered voting? Do you know what it is to get arrested and actually perform civil disobedience? Do you even know what it is to get people to fill out their census and actually table for census work? Do you even know what it is to even get young people to actually get involved?
Talk about it.
involved in a civil rights social justice organization or a gun violence, care violence, CMS organization, or get them involved in just getting basic community service that is supposed to, you should want to do. You should want to give back to your community. You should want to help. Like, getting young people to support black-owned businesses. Like, do you know that feeling? Like, and that's why I just learned that as an activist and an organizer and a movement strategist, these awards that I was receiving, I was so, and I still am, so incredibly grateful and thankful, because I'm the youngest in my community to ever achieve this much. There's nobody that has
You're
ever
the youngest
done
in this
what I've
community to ever
done.
achieve this much.
And I'm grateful, and it's not to be cocky or conceited, because I'm not that type of person, but I'm more hurt because I feel that there are more young people out there that are not getting that recognition and are not getting their flowers that they deserve. But why is that? You know why that is because young people are not getting their voices amplified. And this has a lot to do with conservatives. This has a lot to do with white supremacy. This has a lot to do with OGs in the movement who want to push their own political agendas on us. And it's like, yo, I feel that, like, as an activist, people have told me that I shouldn't reach for the stars. I should just stay in my position and wait my turn. And I'm just not having it, man. Like, I'm not, like, I've been through so much. And, you know, I don't care what you want to do in life. If you think that, you know, this business or this movement or, you know, this work comes without putting in your blood, sweat, and tears, then you're insane. You shouldn't even bother trying. Like, I always believe that hard work pays off. And, you know, I always tell my youth, like, anything that they can do, anything that they can imagine, they can achieve it. Just because you got dealt the deck of cards, right? You got dealt the wrong cards. You got dealt the wrong hand. Doesn't mean that you can't reshuffle that deck and reshuffle that hand for a better outcome in life, or for a better purpose in life, or just to see yourself grow. You know, we are all human. Nobody ever says that, you know, we're perfect, but what we should talk about a lot more, I want to say, just to speak on that aspect of mental health, is knowing that, like, you're dealing with so much deaths and so much tragedies as an activist, that trauma feels so lonely. So I try to ask myself, what does self-care look like, and what does that, you know, lead into? And, you know, for me, I just feel that I want young people to know that I stand before them, and I stand before us, next to us all, and on the toes of giants, that I stand before you fully liberated.
So this brings into a good point, because you do love to collaborate, love to step on the foots of giants, love to help other people, OG or younger. But you always talk about, you know, performers, right? The people that love to go on your GoFundMe, oh, he's doing this for a certain reason. The performers that, oh, well, he's just doing this for a certain reason. Those are people that are hating, that are bringing down the movement of what you're trying to accomplish, of what we're all trying to accomplish, right? When you have OGs having, you know, the lack of collaboration that goes on, I guess, within the activism field, right? And you like talking about intersectionality on your Instagram. So I would like you to kind of dive a little bit into, because I know in my Black Lives Matter movement in DC, a lot of people were mad that the trans community was getting involved with it. Oh, why? It's supposed to be black. Now the trans community came in, LGBTQ plus, part of my ignorance. Community was inside the protests, and people were getting mad, and, you know, intersectionality involves with that. So when do you feel that the collaboration will come from all aspects? Because that's the only way that, you know, all the issues will get involved, if we all come together and put our egos to the side. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, the importance of collaborating and intersectionality?
Intersectionality to me means all across the board. And I live by that, and I stand by that. If any of you guys ever heard of a young black woman who is a professor at Columbia University, Miss Kimberly Crenshaw, I believe that if we use her theory of intersectionality, we have to use her theory the right way. And what does intersectionality look like? You know, intersectionality looks like, to me, demanding from our elected officials policy, equity, and everything that comes with that, making sure that our rights are human rights, youth rights are human rights. And, you know, for me, I feel that it's just bigger. Like, there's a bigger picture to all of this. Seeing communities, especially black, indigenous people of color, you know, come together as one. We are literally the epitome of what this movement is all about.
Yeah.
You know, you have so many different types of injustices, and to me it shows like, wow, like we all have a heart because we're survivors of this. You know, we're really survivors. Just say it, like, of white supremacy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, and all we just want is we want our allies to become accomplices and co-conspirators. And I'll give you an example. Like, Little Baby said it the best, and he said, "It's bigger than black. It's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. It can't change overnight, but we got to start somewhere." And that song really was like the biggest song of 2020 to 2021.
The bigger picture by Little Baby.
Mm-hmm. And it touched me a lot because I look at that and I said to myself, wow, this amount of unity and coming together, and people are speaking on behalf of us. Like, our people are speaking on behalf of us, and that's incredibly amazing and proud. Like, we are getting somewhere. Yeah. Like, when you have whites and blacks come together, then you're going to have Asians come together with Muslims, and then you're going to have, everybody's going to come together.
You're right, that is a crazy point. Everybody,
you don't know what's going to happen when everybody start coming together. So, intersectionality means, knowing that black people, black trans women, black men, black families, black boys, black girls, black foster care youth, black sex workers.
Repeat that one more time for the people in the back. I want it from the beginning.
So intersectionality
means, what do you fight? Yeah, black.
Your movement has to include everything about black lives. So I'll start off with this. If your movement does not include those who are literally living in housing projects, those who are on public assistance, those who are wrongfully, currently, and formerly incarcerated, those who are sex workers, those who are scammers,
those who are scammers, those who are what?
Those who are in schools taking out loans, those who are being affected by the school prison pipeline, those who are literally victims of gun violence, those who have been the shooter as well as the victim. Your movement needs to include everybody and everything.
That's crazy.
And for me, that's what intersectionality means. I mean, I've been in correctional facilities talking to youth who have been in foster care, who have committed heinous crimes that they shouldn't have done. But the system decides to charge them and push them to wait for their trial at the age of 16.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we are fighting to get the age raised, like raising the age.
To 18?
To 18. And I look at Khalif Browder, which is a black man who, like, I admire so much, and God bless his soul. For him to literally wait for his trial, like, and be in solitary confinement, is truly just devastating. And it's just really sad because I learned that the power is in the people, and all power to the people, but the power is in the people. When you look at the Walking While Trans bill that just passed, that wasn't legislators. That was the people.
What's Walking While Trans?
The trans bill that just passed, Walking While Trans. Okay, I may have to get back to that.
Hate against transgender?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. And also to queers and non-binaries as well. But we as the people fought for that, especially the Stonewall protests. Shout out to Joella and Queen Jean. They are two phenomenal women who are literally at Stonewall, organizing for over 40 weeks every Thursday.
Oh, wow.
And I just ask myself all the time as a black man first, like, literally, what can I do to amplify the voices of black women and black trans women and black queer and gender non-conformant and non-binary people? I'm not just looking to be an ally, but I'm more looking to be an ally, co-conspirator, and accomplice. Like, I need to be protecting women out of harm's way. So intersectionality means so many different things to me. And, it's just so important that I feel that as an activist, there are going to be days where I'm fighting for justice and I may not get it, but I know that
it's on the other side.
It's going to be a fight. And, I'm just going to push through it, and it's just like trauma. Trauma, you have to fight through it. You can't let trauma continue to follow you and relive through it. You got to fight through trauma, and you got to get past and see it through, literally go through it.
That's crazy. That's an amazing point. And I know that You said, I forgot what you said one time. You said in order to understand pain, you must go through. You said trauma.
Trauma.
Uh-huh.
In order for me to be, this is what led me into becoming an activist and being activated at the age of 8 years old. You must learn tragedy on your own sometimes to really realize that you're in a fight.
Must learn tragedy on your own sometimes to really realize that you're in a fight. Yes. That's what it was. Yes.
And any issue that plagues our personal community plagues our larger community.
Yeah.
This is everybody's problem. It's not just a white person's problem, a black person's problem, a Muslim person's problem. This is everybody's problem. And we can only fix this world, and we can only fix our people's egos and, you know, just their trauma together. And, you know, for me, it's like, I don't believe the world changes. I believe people change the world. And
I don't believe the world changes. I think people change the world.
And, you know, to be able to have access and to be able to hold space and, you know, just see the black joy that is so inedible. Like, it's incredible to see that while you're organizing protests, rallies, press conferences, student walkouts. And, you know, there are times that as an activist, I have to find ways on amplifying not just my voice, but other survivors' voices, because I believe that we don't have a seat at the table. In fact, we're building our own table, and we're not waiting for a baton no more. Too many times, older generations do not want to pass the microphone. So we can't wait for older generations to pass us the microphone. They love to continuously to preach to our youth, like myself. Young people are the future. Young people are the hope. Reverend Jesse Jackson said young people are the hope. I believe young people are right now.
Right now.
We are not the future. We are right now. And let me tell you why we are right now. Young people is the reason why a lot of you guys have jobs. We literally are the root of the economy. We are literally the frontline
workers.
The frontline workers. And when you look at young people in this movement, you have Huey P. Newton. You have Fred Hampton, who passed away at the age of 21 years old.
God bless their soul.
You have Barack Obama, who became an organizer in his 20s. This movement was always based on young people. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Shirley Chisholm. You know, this movement was Angela Davis. This movement was always based on young people. And the people who are present today are young, and I'm so incredibly grateful to see the amount of young comrades I have beside me and activists that I look up to and civil rights, social justice leaders that just inspire me. And I always say to myself, homage is a big thing for me, because I don't care what you want to do in life. If you think that you can get past this without giving your respect and your dues to people, you're insane. Like, I'm very big on homage, and you know, there's so many activists and leaders and movement strategists and organizers that I really look up to now, and it really goes with starting with black women. You know, I believe that black women are literally running for office that we've never seen before. You know, black women are
shout
literally...
out Shay Lee, too.
You know, shout out to Shay Lee. You know, for example, Shay Lee, she's Gen Z, and Shay Lee is literally young, like 21, 22, I think 21 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and I look at Shay Lee and I'm so incredibly grateful and thankful to know somebody like her, because I've watched Shay Lee organize stuff in her college. She was a student activist, you know, and it's truly incredible.
Can you go on a little, what activists have inspired you, or what activists do you look up to or model your activism over?
I model my activism
because I know you love civil disobedience. So what activists?
So let me tell you the activists that I model myself over. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the first. Malcolm X is the second. John Lewis is the third. Honestly, you know what? Forget that. Like, I'm not even going to put numbers on them. I admire myself as John Lewis on getting into some good trouble. And then I also admire myself as Bayard Rustin on getting into some good trouble and civil disobedience, but also doing the background work and making sure that all of our voices, all of our voices is being amplified, but also knowing that the story and the message
is still there.
is still there and it needs to be told. And it needs to come from us because we are survivors. We are the ones who actually can go through this pain and have been through this pain. You know, I look at Shirley Chisholm, I look at Miss Tamika D. Mallory, who I love and I'm so inspired by. Like, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I've actually stood with Tamika in many different times. You know, whether it was a press conference, whether it was protesting with her, whether it was a rally. And I just am so proud because, you know, you being in the movement for over 20 plus years, especially working for Reverend Al Sharpton as well, like, you had to be whipped into wokeness. Like, you had to, like, it was a demand that you had to be there. And that's how it was for me, like, too. Like, I feel that as a young activist, I feel that I have no other choice but to be a voice.
That's crazy. And what goes into your mindset behind when you have these protests? What do you do as an organizer? What's the steps that organizer can take? If someone wanted to organize, what's the steps that they can take to lead a protest, to organize a protest, a rally, phone banks for campaign political candidates? What is a process an organizer can use, or what's the steps that you can do use?
We could do the steps. I'll give 5 steps. First is identifying what is an activist and an organizer. First, identifying as an organizer, you lived in a community for as many plus years or as many months, and you are now a reflection of others that live in that community. And I'm talking about you're going through poverty, you're going through low-income households. You know, your congressional district is probably the lowest in the community. So you want to find ways to know that I want to be an organizer and an activist, not because I chose it, but because it chose me. I had no other choice but to get up and do this and fight in this fight. But also find ways on why you're doing what you're doing, because me as a person, I decided to use my voice to elevate and help others who don't have the platform. I decided to use that platform that I have as a voice for others who don't have. But I also decided to be a voice so that the next generation after me doesn't have to go through marching, protesting, rallying, holding somebody accountable, having to go through press, having to put legislation and policy and equity and like, I don't want the next generation to have to do that. So I march so that other people don't have to march. The next generation doesn't have to march. I stand up for what I believe in, because I feel like if I don't do it, who's gonna do it? You know, and these steps I would ask is, are you ready for the pain, the trauma, the blood, sweat, and tears that comes with this? Because you really have to be mentally strong. And to me, I look at it as like maybe mind over matter, but also knowing that this is people coming together. And I learned that politics is the people, like the politics of people, I think I want to say. Like, politics, I've learned, is that like you're dealing with people and you're dealing with people's egos that you don't know what to expect. There's politics that are dirty and there's politics that are good. You know, but for me, I don't really know if I see myself as a politician, because I've worked in government and politics for, you know, a long amount of time, and I've been railroaded, I've been abused, and I'm not trying to say that experience has made me not want to become a politician, but I always believe that there's power in your voice, and there's just power in living in your purpose, and just not to forget those two things, and knowing that there's also power in the people. We all have to come together as one. I've stood with mothers who have lost their sons and daughters to police brutality, to the viciousness of gun violence, the viciousness of being human sex trafficked, the viciousness of the foster care system, the viciousness of suicide, the viciousness of black trans women dying before they can see their life expectancy age of 35, the viciousness of young kids being bullied and actually having to go to high school and not get into their specialized colleges or specialized high schools because they don't have the money for it, and their SATs are being rigged. It's just many different things that we have to unpack. So as an activist and as an organizer, it is your duty, in the words of Assad Shakur, to fight for your freedom, and it is your duty to win. But it's also your duty to win. It's also your duty to know that you must love and protect one another and each other.
That's crazy. That's beautiful right there. And what makes Larry's story even more beautiful, I'm going to let him go into this as we segue into the last couple questions in the interview. This will be, if you could go brief into it, I don't think you guys really know, but Larry is living in a homeless shelter, fighting for, the black community, fighting for all minority groups, all the people underrepresented, and that takes a lot of strength and effort in your part. So for that, that already makes you a revolutionary leader, because I don't know the backgrounds of most people. I haven't seen someone from a homeless shelter go out and fight for other people. Usually, you're in that position, you fight for yourself, right? So, what is that process like, going into a homeless shelter or advocating from a homeless shelter? Do they give you the resources that you need? Do you have showers? Do you have food? How do you eat?
It's more of not even just about the resources, Mike. It's more of like the lack of communication and coordination and social capitalism that has been done to the amount of youth that are actually living in shelters.
Yep.
We have all this funding for shelters, and we have all this funding for like the Department of Homeless Services, but where's the funding for our preservation of actually getting into secure and stable housing? So for those who don't even know, I've been in the foster care system since I was 2 years old. And at the age of 21 years old, I aged out of foster care. A lot of you guys would ask, like, how does the aging out look like? Well, I was promised an extension for many different reasons. One, I was a college student. Two, I was promised an extension because I didn't have nowhere to go. But that extension didn't go through. It wasn't approved. I never understood why. Maybe it was because I performed many different types of acts of civil disobedience through activism. I didn't know why. So for me, I had aged out of the foster care system with just a one single ride trip Metro card.
That's crazy. And
this is just the amount of things that youth faced on a daily basis. I looked at Khalif Browder. When Khalif Browder was set to get out of Rikers Island, they gave him a Metro card to go home.
What?
So I knew that this wasn't just...
He could have hopped the
This
trust.
wasn't just an I Am Queens issue. This was an issue that was plaguing our larger community as a whole.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I've been making so much history, leading marches that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had came out, as well as the Queensborough President Donovan Richards, and, doing so many different things to hold my elected officials accountable, going to press to hold them accountable, calling them out in private and in public. I'm not the type of person to take it all to public unless I do it in private, and if it doesn't go how it's supposed to go in private, best to believe I will hold you accountable, and I will take it to public, and I will tell you this is because of restorative justice and transformative justice, and this is how it looks. So I'm going to show you better than I can tell you on how it looks. And for me, it just broke my heart. I'm living in a runaway homeless youth shelter. I'm being an activist and organizer. This takes blood, sweat, and tears, but it's also a full-time job that I do not get paid for. And I'm not asking for any money, even though I do believe that the work that I do and the amount of change that I've seen with the work that I do and the amount of awards that I have received, I do believe that I should get some type of compensation on educating white folks on this work. Or I would love to educate white folks on, do you know what it is to want to become certified as a foster parent, as a white mother, or as a white father? Do you know what you're putting yourself going through? Like, do you know what you're going through? Because to me, if you want to become a foster parent, there should be a type of program or a type of boot camp, I would say, that you have to go through so that you know what it takes to be a foster care parent and what you're getting yourself into. And for those who are probably watching right now, like, oh my gosh, I'm shocked that you have been through all of this and still you are prevailing and going through your hardships and, overcoming and beating all the odds. It got to the point where I couldn't depend on no elected official to help me because they were giving me these awards, I guess, to make them feel good. And it was very performative to me because that same night I got those awards, I went back home to my shelter and committed suicide and tried to harm myself with a box cutter. And, for me, I remember speaking to my own congressman who actually gave me the award. And he told me that foster care youth aging out of foster care and becoming homeless and having to live in homeless shelters, covenant homes, and children's centers and group homes, that's not a federal issue.
What?
That's not a federal issue. That's not a government issue.
That's crazy.
There's no legislation that really talks about what you are talking about. So to me, it's not a government and federal issue. And it's like I felt like I was getting looked at. I felt like I was getting looked at as a liar.
Yeah.
But not even just as a liar. It took me to make a GoFundMe for that same government official, which is my congressman, to not even Senator James Sanders, but this is like Congressman Gregory Meeks, who's the congressman of the New York 5 district, looks at me and thinks of, oh, this man is probably just a con artist. Like he's cooning. He's a con artist. And, you know, I made that GoFundMe because that was the last option I had left. When you are fighting and you are an activist and you are putting your blood, sweat, and tears in this movement, it is a full-time job. And I don't care what nobody says. We are dedicating our lives to this movement. We don't even know if we'll make it home the next day, night, or morning. We are writing speeches up and staying up past 12 hours at 12 in the morning. We are not even just writing speeches, but we are finding ways that we can get all of our communities to come together. The churches who have been making money and profiting off of a lot of us, they need to find ways to support us. The Chinese restaurants who we eat from, they need to come back in our communities and support us. Black people need to support each other's black businesses. And the only way we can really make change is by pushing our ego and pushing all of that type of hate in our hearts to the side and actually coming together as one.
And realizing it's a bigger problem.
It's bigger than black and white.
And then that leads to the that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You heard him. He's the mogul. He's the guy. And like I said, you're dropping jewels. Everybody around here, they stop and they listen. And we're in the station right now. And this leads to my last question. We're glad to have you on today. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering this question. What's your future career aspirations? What's your future career? What's your dream goals? What do you want to accomplish? What's the one social justice issue when you leave this earth you want to at least see it on a way bigger platform? And what's something that you want to pursue? Like, what's your end goal? You want to have a business, a nonprofit? You want to start an organization like Until Freedom? What's up with that?
I see myself in the next couple of years from now introducing legislation to multiple people who are in Albany or probably nationwide on passing some actual legislation that can protect and make sure that foster care youth are not abandoned and unsafe ever again. You know, I'm tired of my foster brothers and sisters being killed, and I'm just tired of my youth having to go through homelessness. So I have to find ways on introducing legislation, thinking of legislation, and making sure that that can get passed. But my also dreams that I would love to achieve is I also want to open up my own nonprofit organization. This is an organization that I want to open up for civil rights and social justice, but as well as making sure that I can have the stability of getting young people who are actually going through the foster care system all of their rights. I want to make sure that they get their passport, their driver's license. I want to make sure that they get their social security card, their EBT, their benefit card, their health insurance. They should get first priority housing. They shouldn't have to wait for first priority housing because they're not pregnant, because they're a single man household just like myself. Like, I want to be able to find ways that I can ensure that all foster care youth are being heard. Another dream that I have is I always wanted to just project my life story on a film.
That's crazy.
I always wanted to just bring awareness on the amount of trauma that I have went through and I have to still relive.
So people can feel your
story. So people can really feel my story. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys who are watching this right now have never seen the Netflix docuseries of Gabriel Fernandez.
They probably have. I haven't.
And, you know.
Oh, the Social Security that was abused by his family, by his mom and dad.
He was in foster care.
Oh, that was a foster care home. No, that's crazy. Yeah, I seen the first. I didn't get to finish it. I definitely should though. That's crazy.
It's really, really crazy. And you know, I also see myself creating change of getting people who are wrongfully convicted in correctional facilities out of jail. You know, I'm on a case right now who I will not say his name, but literally, I'm pretty sure that if I continue to put the heat on these elected officials, they will hear us and they will get tired of the organizing that we do and will do their job. And it shouldn't have to get to that, but I need people to know that, you know, I'm not standing for this. I'm going to make sure that my youth, in fact, are building the table and are having a seat
at the table.
And not even just having a seat at the table and building the table, but we are leading that table.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just that on that, you know? And my last thing that I would love to achieve is I would love to get my voice and other foster care youth voices amplified, where we can create and actually spread awareness of a scholarship, of making sure that we can create maybe a clothing line, like a business, but something that's like an entrepreneur mogul status and building an empire of foster care youth coming together. So not just so we could share our stories, but so that it doesn't happen to another
foster care kid. That's a crazy. Those are amazing dreams, and I can't wait to see them come into fruition because we manifest here at See Through the Hype. I'd like to thank Larry for coming through and making this episode amazing. Great interview with I Am Queens, the GOAT. You can follow him on Instagram. The tags will be below. Instagram, I Am Queens. Twitter, I Am Queens.
Twitter is _I Am Queens. Instagram _I Am Queens.
And they'll be in the middle of this little video. You'll see the editor will put it there. God bless you for being on the show. We are so glad to have you. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, go comment below. Go DM Larry on his Instagram. He's very active because he is an activist and he talks to everybody. He's not a performer. He will talk to anybody about any issue. He's the GOAT. He's one of the most well-respected people I've ever met in my life. So I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for coming through. This was amazing. This was amazing. This was amazing.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for using your platform and just making sure that you can elevate the voices of young people going through an injustice. And I'm just so incredibly grateful and thankful for that.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. That means the world. God bless you. Episode done.